Hello and welcome to Springboard Virtual University. My name is Albert Ocran, matriculating you into Ghana's foremost developmental program, bringing together the greatest minds since the year 2008. Springboard is brought to you by the Springboard Roadshow Foundation and proudly sponsored by MTN Pulse, the Enterprise Group, UMB Bank, with media support from the Multimedia Group and the Graphic Business. Here we are in the year 2023, starting with a series, My Top 10. And by the time you graduate in the next hour, it's simple. You will get the 5 lessons, learnings, prescriptions from people that you love to hear from and people that you tell us always that they are your role models. You will hear their 5 biggest learnings and more importantly, their 5 prescriptions for the ideal Ghana. My first guest is somebody that you love to hear over and over again. Reigning Journalist of the Year, broadcast journalist, and health advocate, Portia Gabor. Portia, good to see you.
Good to see you. I'm indeed humbled to be here. I was a listener of Springboard as a child, and then I'm no more a listener, but today I'm here as a contributor, so it's like a full circle moment for me. So I'm indeed
it's
humbled
amazing.
to be here.
It is amazing, and we followed your rise and rise for quite a while. Springboard literally has a list of people that we track, and we sometimes will tell ourselves that next year we'll bring this person, and then just follow what they do. And let me, on behalf of Team Springboard, thank you for your outstanding contribution, especially in the past year. I'm sure that our viewers and listeners have their own list of your awards. And I recall during the MTN Heroes of Change Awards, where I happened to be one of the judges, telling Gifty Auntie sitting next to me that this is almost like the year for you. Do you feel sometimes like this year has been, the past year has been like a watershed moment for you?
It's been the year God has broken through for me after years in the wilderness. And to me, it's like being a carrot. A farmer goes to the field to grow different fruits and vegetables. We all see the pineapple growing. We see the ears of the corn shoot up, but no one sees the carrots. It is deep in the soil, and carrot thinks that it is far behind, it is not growing, but it is indeed growing. Then all of a sudden, the farmer comes to the field and uproots the carrots because it's time has come. And it was like a full circle moment for me, because sometimes you could be talented but hidden, and you have to trust in God's timing, because he makes all things beautiful in his time. So in the years of being in the wilderness, I was still growing like a carrot. And let me use this example as well. A farmer also goes to the field and sows a corn. All things being equal, 3-4 months, you get fruits from the corn, but you sow a cocoa seed and then it takes 7 years for it to bear fruit. But it doesn't mean that the cocoa seed is useless, because no one is seeing its fruit until it gets to its 7th year. So sometimes you have to trust in God's timing to make all things beautiful in his time, and I've always felt that way.
Would you say that is one of the anchor principles of your life?
Exactly. God has broken through for me severally. Growing up, I remember in class 3, I had a visitor in class. There was a lady in black who had come to see me. And when I went home with her, apparently my father had died. I'd never seen my father in my life before. And he wanted to see me before passing on. It was too late. The time she came, he had already passed on. And I remember people kept asking me, what is going to become of your life? And I knew that God was the father to the fatherless, and so I trusted that he was going to take care of me. And it meant my mom going back to school to raise extra income for me as a nurse as well. So I lived with relatives, I lived with my mom's friends at a point in time. And in school, I did not always want to become a journalist. I first wanted to become a doctor, a medical doctor, but my maths was terrible. Then I wanted to become a lawyer, and I changed it at a point. And then I wanted to read the weather on TV. But
was it influenced by Reverend Imos Nyakotepa?
Exactly. I loved his reports and his weather forecasting. My breakthrough moment came when I went to visit my mom at Ewutu Bontrase. As a nurse, she accepted postings in rural Ghana, and there was no electricity there. And the only form of entertainment for me was the radio. And BBC signal was very strong in Ewutu Bontrase. And then I kept listening to the BBC. And then I heard Kweku Sechiado, and I loved his reports. Each and every one of us has a voice. There are many people whose voices are not loud enough, so they need a journalist to come in to amplify their voices for them. So journalism to me is like a microphone amplifying the voices of those whose voices cannot be heard. I don't believe there are people who are voiceless. They have a voice, but their voices are not loud enough. And seeing Kweku do all these things and great reports about Ghana, interviewing skills, I was like, I think I know what I want to become in future. So I decided to become a journalist. But how would I get there? I got to senior high school, Kobo Girls Senior High School, and then I was offered elective maths. I was offered geography.
You didn't tell me that you had
I was
maths.
offered economics. I'm like, God, what is this? And so I went severally to school authorities to tell them, could they change my course? I was even willing to repeat because I could be among the first 20 or first 10 in literature, English, social studies, current affairs, and then it gets to maths, and my highest is like 3%. I think maths did not understand me. It's not a matter of me not understanding maths. Maths did not understand me. So it was time to write WASI, and I was wondering what I was going to do. So there was a competition in school then, and they needed the best in maths and science. And then someone who was good in current affairs, social studies, and English. So they settled on a very good science student. And then with the social studies, English, they settled on me. Right. So during the competition, when it got to the maths and science questions, I'll pretend to be working the maths question. Meanwhile, I was drawing flowers on my paper. And then after the first 3 rounds, we were last but one. And then we had the last round, which was English and then social studies and current affairs. And no one answered those questions. I answered plus the bonus ones because I was really good in current affairs. I was reading newspapers. And then in the end, we won. And then it struck a chord with me that if I focused on my strengths while working on my weaknesses, perhaps I could become someone great in life. So SSC, my mom did everything. She got me the best of elective maths teachers. She did everything possible for me, but maths still did not understand me. Wow. So a few weeks to the exam, I sat her down and I told her that, Ma, I'm going to tell you something. I am going to fail in elective maths, but luckily for me...
I'm telling you in advance.
Yes, I'm telling you in advance, but don't panic because I'm going to focus on my strengths. And then at least I'll try to get a pass mark in core maths to push me to the university because they were taking 3 subjects and we're learning 4. So don't panic. I could fail in maths, but I won't fail in life.
What do your mom say?
She understood me because she had tried everything. They had gotten me the best of teachers, extra classes, and I still wasn't getting it in elective maths.
Do you still dislike math?
No, now as a journalist, you have to learn everything. So
it's interesting, eh?
And so exam time came and elective math, I was actually drawing flowers on my... I didn't understand the questions. I didn't or maybe the questions didn't understand me. Let me put it that way.
So how did it go?
So I wrote the questions back in the paper.
And you failed?
And then lo and behold, the result came and I had an F in elective maths. But I had my pass and my core maths. Yes.
So it was almost prophetic.
Well, I remember going for my result and one school authority was like, so you failed in elective maths, so what are you going to do now? And like everyone thought I had let everyone down because of the F that I had in elective maths. And I was like, I'm going to go to the university and I'll make it in life. I wanted to prove them wrong. And I remember one school authority also telling me, what do you want to become in future? I said, I want to become a journalist and a news anchor.
How old are you then?
I should 14, 15, thereabouts.
I tell you what, we were very blessed, because I was talking to a 20-year-old recently, and I asked, what do you want to do? And she said, I don't know. And I said, it's okay. Don't worry.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
When we were younger, there was so much pressure to know what you wanted to do very, very early. But we are finding out in our research, Portia, that the 10 hottest jobs in the world today did not even exist 10 years ago. So let's let the children be free.
Yeah.
Let them just learn their basics.
Even as adults, we are still figuring out what we want to become. We are still becoming.
Exactly. Because even under journalism, there are probably about 20 different expressions. At first, we were just journalists.
Yeah.
These days, somebody is a specialist in health. Somebody is doing agricultural journalism. So let's just relax.
Yeah.
All right, this is Springboard, your virtual university. Our series is called My Top 10, and I happen to be here with Portia Gabor. Portia is just an amazing person and a good storyteller. One thing I love about her. And she's been unpacking the story of her life and helping us to distill the lessons. Even without she mentioning it, I can see 3 clear ones. Don't let me influence your selection, but my selection from what you've said so far, the first is about patience. Use the story of the carrot, which I liked. And then also the story of corn versus cocoa, to say that sometimes in God's workings in your life, it's a patient process. And so don't think that it's not working, it takes time.
And you know how important cocoa is to Ghana's GDP as compared to corn.
Yeah. The second one is what you call the turning point moment, where you say you're trying to figure out what to do with your life, and in the most unlikely of places, listening to the BBC, and of all persons, my good friend Kukusi Chiadu, you stumbled upon the fact that journalism is giving a mic or amplifying the voiceless, and then you decided to become a journalist, not in Accra, but in YouTube. That was a nice one. The third one is about focusing on your strengths or playing to your strengths, and you describe a beautiful story about a competition where you knew that as for the math part, you leave it for them, you draw flowers. Are you an artist as well?
I can do something small.
For your own purposes, not for competitions. But you share that at the end of the day, you reserve your strength for where you were strong, and you came in there in the second half. And you won the match. So 3 lessons from you so far. What are your own lessons about your life? What are the key pillars that drive your life? While we enjoy Portia's 5 big lessons, make time to share your own lessons with us. Everyone has a story. She says journalism is about putting a mic before the voiceless. Springboard is giving you a mic to tell us your own top 5 lessons. Let's talk about them on social media. Let's share them. Let's make this a developmental conversation, finding out everyone's voice and their lessons. So Portia, on to university.
Yes, I went to the African University College of Communication to study communication studies.
That's the youngest institution.
Yes, and
fantastic person.
During that time, while in school, I was also teaching 2 kids in my neighborhood and helping them with their homework. And when we were tired, I'll just pick a newspaper and I'll pretend as if I was a newscaster on TV3. So I'll pick the newspaper. Hello and welcome. It was a standard of journalism at that time. That's why. So the Emma Morrisons were there, the Nana Banamwes were there, the Henry Malms were there. So I'll pretend as if I am those news anchors, and then the kids will be laughing with me. So I'll just pick, and then they'll all be laughing. And then after completing AUCC, I did my national service at the Ministry of Information, the Information Services Department. That place too, during our break time, I'll gather my friends and then I'll pick a newspaper and I'll pretend I'm a news anchor, and then we'll all be laughing. By the time I realized, my friends started recording me and then would laugh over it. And then one day, a guy came along with a video camera, the big ones, and then he would record me as if I'm actually in the studio. Then one day, while we were doing that, TV3 was looking for a newscaster and a journalist, and we saw that on telly while I was pretending I was a news anchor. As if in unison, everyone's eye turned to me and they were like, this is you. They are the one they are looking for. I was like, really? And they're like, yes, you've prepared with us. you've prepared with the kids in your neighborhood. Don't despise your small beginnings. This is actually a preparatory ground for you to go out there into the field. And well, there was one thing, I was a very shy person. And
just like me.
I've never done public speaking before. And I thought I was just doing it just for doing sake. But there was this friend, Augustina, she actually held my hand, went to Cantamanto to get a nice dress for me, a skirt and a top. And she was preparing me for that moment, and I was like, still, I don't want to go, and I'm nervous. I've not been in front of a camera. And she was like, no, I take out my phone to record you while you're pretending you're a news anchor. So, and it just cast my mind back to David. Before David became a king, he was in the wilderness, conquering the lion and the bear in the wilderness, and that actually prepared him to kill Goliath and actually prepared him to go into the palace. I remember going to ICGC, Christ Temple then as a young girl, because I didn't have a sense of direction, I didn't have a sense of vision. And so when I just got up, I'd heard Dr. Waterbull preach on television. I decided to go to church, and he made a sermon the first day I went to his church, and the sermon's title was The Making of a King. How God picked David up from a shepherd boy and then made him into a king in the king's palace. And it struck a chord with me, and I was like, okay, God, if you could do that with David as a shepherd boy, perhaps if I pray and ask you to do the same thing with me,
Portia,
would you do this to me? It was just a simple prayer I prayed to God, and I think God heard me. So I went to take a picture to go to TV3, and at that time my ears were really big, and they're still big though, but I was so insecure. And I had ponytail that day, so it meant that my ears were sticking out, and what I wanted to hide were actually sticking out. But that actually attracted the news editor to call me that day when he saw my passport picture, because it looked like his daughter's ears as well. His family, their ears looked like mine. So it's interesting how something I've always been trying to hide rather made the news editor pick me up from among the pictures that he had seen.
You know what? There's something about your story that's very compelling. Have you thought about writing a book?
Yes, I have.
I think you should. I think you should. I'll tell you what. You say everyone has a voice, and to borrow the words of my good friend and mentor, Uncle Ebohua, he says everyone has a story. So when I was writing my first book, he said to me, I'll write a recommendation in the book for you on only one condition. Tell me the title of the second book. Because the first book, there is no scoring. Everyone has a story, so your first book is your story. But to just go back to that point, I think that you have a very good storytelling ability, and so it will lend more oomph to your story when you tell it. You tell it very well, and it's very compelling. I see so many points of interest in your story, and you seem to enjoy telling it.
Yes. I think I was called to do this. To me, my work is a calling. And I think God, and it's something I'll do over and over and over again. I think God has placed me in this life or this world for such a time as this to make an impact before either he returns or calls me home. And it's, Reverend Albert, I've won many awards in my lifetime, but there's one that I haven't won yet, which I yearn to, and I always strive to get there. Is to hear my Creator tell me one day that, well done, good and faithful servant. How big is faith in everything that you do? It's number one. It's everything for me. So I remember, after going into the palace grounds, which was TV3, I had to relearn everything. So for example, before going to TV3, you'd say the word says, but actually it is says. Epitome, it's epitome. And I had to relearn the whole English language again, because I was now going to read to millions of people, some professors, some who are good in English language, but I came with my raw talent. So I made mistakes initially. So when that happened, I was asked to sit back and not come on air to do the major bulletins. I was moved back to focus on the lesser bulletins, like the news and briefs. And one day, I went to work and the security man called me to open page 2 of Graphic Showbiz. A professor had written an article about news anchoring in Ghana, and he mentioned the names of some people he felt were not good enough to be on television, and my name was Pat. And that day I was like, oh my God. And imagine the number of people who read the newspaper with your name there as someone who wasn't good. I remember people laughing at me that day. I was like, God, did you bring me to the palace ground for just this to happen to me, for me to become a mockery? And I remember I wanted to resign that day because you know, you can make a mistake in your home and no one sees, but for the whole world to see you make a mistake on air, so I was prepared to resign. So I started as a sports presenter at TV3. Oh, so during sports time, at that time, the sports presenter was not around, so I had to fill in. So while it was time, we had gone on a commercial break and it was time for me to read. They asked me to do voice check and I was so down, I burst into tears. And the director was counting down from 10
Who was the director at the time?
He was called Josiah.
Okay.
Yeah. He was counting down 10 and I was crying, not like soft, I was crying, ma. And if I had come on air, it would be on YouTube. The whole world would see me crying. And I was still crying. It got to 5. I was still crying. 3. I was still crying. 2. Because I knew if they picked me, I was hello and welcome, and then I'll start crying. That is what would have happened. But it got to 3. I was still crying. 2, 1. And the director would say, kill sound, take reader, cue. That's when you see us in your homes. And then he said, kill sound, take reader. Guess what happened? There was lights off. It was a major outage in Ghana that day. And that day, I knew it was God. I had no doubt. This is not a totally story. This is actually something that happened.
You know what you remember?
There was light
it's
off.
almost like the whole of your life is some divine
yes.
painting that is like a film.
Yes, and I remember back to the prayer I prayed to God. If he was able to use David, he can use me. It was a simple prayer and I committed my life into his hands. And
let me pick one of the most compelling things you've told me. It's funny that, I mean, yeah, the awards are beautiful and the list is as long as the full Ghana Black Stars plus the substitutes. But the thing that you said today that has caught my attention the most is going to start a broadcast career with all the vim. Starting, and I'm sure when you go home that day, friends, family, loved ones, we saw you on TV. Then they say your pronunciation is not yet up to the level that is required. So step back. And now you have to go back to the wilderness. And you feel like resigning, you feel like you've lost it all, and you have to start relearning language all over again. The star girl in Krobo Girls doing competitions and winning with language. I suspect that there are several people at what you call the wilderness, those dark moments in your life where you think you've hit some top point and you've been sidelined or relegated. Before I give you my summary and ask you whether it aligns with your summary of 5, speak to those people who are at that point of uncertainty where you really think that you'll be relegated. What would you say to them?
I'll tell them to trust in God's timing. Remember the olden days. Our parents had plates and glasses where they kept in a wardrobe, right? And they only bring it out when a visitor comes to visit. So there are other utensils being used, but those ones are preserved. And so the plate will think that it's useless till a visitor comes in, and then you're no more hidden as well, and then you are serving your purpose. And the years in the wilderness, it's rather time for you to work on yourself. You don't stop what you know how to do best, but work on yourself in the wilderness and trust in God's timing. And God will certainly break through for you when you're in the wilderness period. So in my case, I worked on myself. I got a dictionary, a pronunciation dictionary to work on myself. And then in my wilderness period, I asked myself, okay, there are many news anchors in Ghana, but how can I become different from everyone? And I knew I loved children. I decided, okay, while developing on me reading the news on television, I am going to go into the field and do stories on children. So there was a community, Tomefa, and 2 children had died while crossing the river to go to school. And I saw the story. It wasn't my story. I saw it in our system. And the story focused on an MP going to donate money to them after what happened. And so I called the person who did the story. I was like, I don't think that should be the story. Let's go back there and see why they are using this river to go to school when they could have used transportation. So I went back to the community, sat in the same boat with them without a life jacket. Yeah, I won't do that now because I have 2 children to take care of. So like, it was like something drawing me to do the story. So I went there, sat with them, and there was even a hole in the canoe. But I wanted to tell the story for everyone to see what was happening in that community. And so I joined them, and I felt what those who died had felt, that fear while going to get an education. I did that story, and it was the story that got me 2 awards at GJA in my first year of being a journalist.
Wow.
Yeah.
The canoe with the hole.
Yeah. Yeah.
Riding without a life jacket.
In my wilderness time.
Riding without a life jacket.
Yes. I could have sat down to say I'm in the wilderness and let me be in the wilderness, but I decided to develop myself in the wilderness, and it got me 2 awards.
This is Springboard, your virtual university. If you just joined us, this is the voice of Portia Gabor. She's a Journalist of the Year, MTN Heroes of Change Award winner, and a long list of other awards, taking us back to the Genesis and the Exodus and the Leviticus of her life, helping us to appreciate how the thoughts of her life were framed. If you want a summary, I wonder whether my summary will be the same as hers. But Portia, out of this story you've told, if I ask you for five lessons, what would they be?
So do not despise your small beginnings.
All right.
You put God first. Delays are not denials. And then you work on yourself. And then there's always a turning point moment of your life. And God makes all things beautiful in His time. And so hold on, work on yourself. That moment will come.
Is that how you are? Hey, Rabba. Let me start it. You see, you journalist, you think everything is doing a documentary. You are a teacher now. You have come to class. Your students are listening to you. Lesson number 1, children, have you heard? Do not despise small beginnings. Lesson number 2, put God first. Okay. Lesson number 3, delays are not denials. Yeah. Lesson number 4, you said something about the wilderness, did you?
Yes, you develop yourself in the wilderness period.
All right.
Don't be sad during the wilderness period, but develop yourself during the
develop yourself in the wilderness, and then the final one.
And then you hope for your turning point moment. You keep hope alive.
Keep hope alive for your turning point. All right. I think there's congruence between the thoughts that you share and the lessons that I learned from you, and I will show you how they match, and I will map them. So if I were drawing the lessons instead of letting you share them, it would have been first one about patience, the story of the carrot, and then also the cocoa and the corn examples. The second one would have been serendipity, or the turning point, and how in a little village, not even close to Accra, you found your gift and found your career in Ewutu Bontoase, listening to Kweku Sechiado on the BBC.
And actually met Kweku Sechiado.
I was going to ask you whether in person and how
person.
Did you tell him the impact you had on your life?
Yeah.
He's such a fine gentleman.
And I wasn't even a journalist then.
Wow.
I tried French at Alliance Française. So one day in my class, we had a new student and it was Kweku Sechiado. I was like, oh my God. Now I needed to get through to him for him to know me, but I didn't know how to approach him. So one day we had closed and I was going, and then someone honked, and I turned, it was Kweku. He was giving me a lift to the junction, and I told him everything. I was like, I've waited for almost all my life for this moment, and he gave me advice to pursue excellence, and
you are grateful.
And he won Journalist of the Year as well. in his time. He had once also looked up to him that when here I am to...
Have you seen him since he became journalist?
No, I haven't seen him.
So that's the fruit of your hard work. Okay, so it would have been patience, serendipity, or turning point, playing to your strengths. That's beautiful competition in Krobo Girls. Then also preparation, national service with the children, recording it. Nobody's watching you. You're recording and trying and trying. But the one that I like, everyone needs an Augustina.
Yeah.
I think that's nice. We should write a book with a chapter called Everyone Needs an Augustina.
I will.
Charlie, she will record you, she will encourage you, and she will go to Katamatu and buy you a dress.
I'm telling you.
And then that's on relationships. And the last one is the faith. Faith being the anchor of your life and your work being a calling. Let's go for a break. And this is Springboard, your virtual university. When we come back, now that Portia is the journalist of the year, traveled around the country, sat on boats with holes under them without a life jacket, something she will not do now that she has 2 children. What would be her ideal Ghana? How will she bring all her experiences to bear on making simple suggestions of how we can make this country better? This is our country. Each of us has an idea about how we would like it to be. Portia will be sharing her 5 big prescriptions when we come back from this break. Don't go away. You will enjoy it.
Give me some of that. Some of this, some of that. Give me some of that. Some of this, some of that.
There once was a man who had it all. He had skill, he had charisma. He was loved by all, but above all, he knew the importance of helping others, lifting others up. He knew the importance of giving other people an advantage so that they too would use that advantage to help others. All you need is that advantage that sets you apart from the rest. And when you discover that advantage, life's challenges don't seem so daunting anymore. That's where we come in. Enterprise, your advantage.
Central University, we are not just giving theoretical knowledge, but also real-life practical immersion. Our projects and research are targeted at solving real-life problems within our built and natural environment. My name is Che Joseph Bafo, an architecture student. The faculty and facilities available to us make us industry ready. The project I'm working on recently won an award when my colleagues and I visited the Netherlands. Central University makes you industry ready.
Welcome back to Springboard, your virtual university. Today, hanging out with Portia Gabor, award-winning broadcast journalist, as we explore her top 10. In the first part, we're looking at her 5 biggest lessons. I must confess, it was a struggle to find 5 because it was becoming 10, but we had to strain to find 5 so we could devote the remaining 5 to her prescriptions. This program is brought to you by the Springboard Ratio Foundation and proudly sponsored by MTN Pulse, the Enterprise Group, UMB Bank, with support from the Multimedia Group and the Graphic Business. She mentioned the graphic. Is this showbiz or business?
Showbiz.
Showbiz. So this time we'll switch to graphic business. On Tuesday, you will see this full interview with Portia transcribed for your learning and for your sharing with your loved ones. You'll find it also on my Joy Online and also on springboard.com.gh. So far, Portia's lessons: number 1, don't despise small beginnings. Number 2, prepare for your turning point moment. Number 3, develop yourself in the wilderness. Number 4, delays are not denials. And the last one, very importantly, is about faith. Put God first. Portia, let's go on to country. Country. Do you love your country?
I love my country.
Why?
Wholeheartedly. It's the country God placed me in for such a time as this. And
Wow.
I'll fight for my country. Things may not be perfect with my country, but it's still my country.
Lovely, lovely. So I want to hear from you. I mean, in this Ideal Ghana segment, we all write on our Facebook pages what things should not be, and then sometimes criticize what we think could have been done differently. And sometimes in our own private moments, we say, if I had power, I will do this, or I will do that, or I would like to see this. If you scanned our country, and God gave you a chance to make a wish, a prayer, a desire, what are some basic things that you think if we did it this way, it would work?
I want to see a Ghana where the price tag is not placed on the life of anyone just because of health. So I get many people in my inbox, always flooded, people with diverse ailments who cannot afford. The recent one, I had someone who needed 400,000 cedis to undergo surgery outside Ghana. I think it's time we cushion or help those who cannot afford. I have watched children with dreams die just because they could not get 20,000 cedis to treat cancer. And I've also seen children who were on the verge of death and their lives just changed because they had that amount of money to undergo chemotherapy. Money should not be placed on the life of anybody. And it's also time for us to develop our healthcare systems. A Ghana where politicians will stay in Ghana when they are ill and not travel outside of Ghana to access healthcare.
And just to stay on that a bit, is that the reason why you seem to have specialized in reporting on healthcare issues?
That's majority. Usually those days, those stories were left for interns to do. But one day I remember a mother begged me, she did not want her child to die. And that, as a mother, it resonated with me. What if it was me? Would I be able to get that amount of money to cater for my child? So I needed to do something to advocate. I may not have 20,000 cedis, or even like the teacher who needed 150,000 Ghana cedis. Well, after we did that story, she had that money and she underwent brain aneurysm surgery and she's alive. If she hadn't raised that money, she would have died. So there are thousands of people who have died just because they could not get money.
When you're able to get them to help, describe how you feel in one word, one word.
I think I'm speechless. I mean, I'm overjoyed.
No, I think I like the speechless. Speechless.
I'm speechless when I'm speaking.
For you to be speechless, then it's special.
I mean, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
I mean, someone I watched a boy, I think he was going to die the next day or something. And he was going to die. I mean, and immediately the money comes in, it's like, I think the Bible says it's best, like when water, at the scent of water, a tree sprouts again. It gives hope to that little boy who was going to die. And when you see him today, oh my God. So if, because of the amount of money Ghanaians raised for him, if he had wanted to become a lawyer, he can become a lawyer.
And that's
you are given a second chance at life to that person.
Right. What will be a second prescription?
I want to see a Ghana where children with special needs and disabilities or rare diseases are given equal access in life. So I think now we are not even talking about equal, we are talking about equity, because they've been left behind for far too long. We are talking about fairness here. I've done stories where children with special needs write in BEC especially those with cerebral palsy, they cannot hold a pencil or a pen to answer section B. They may manage to shade the objectives, but they can't answer section B because they cannot write anything. And these are children competing with other children in the classroom. Sometimes they stand throughout and they can't even write an A. And I remember doing a story on Matilda Abenyega. She couldn't answer section B and she did not get access to go to senior high school after BEC. So I walked to the school selection placement system secretariat and I told them, no, you have to bring in equity. You have to give her a chance because she wasn't. I did that. And she got access to West Africa Senior High School and she completed WASI and SS. And then, but the only challenge is that the same problem still persisted. I've been advocating, can we develop a software for them to answer the section B since they are graded, they should be graded differently. Right. And she's now struggling to enter university because she did not do well in the maths, the science, because she couldn't answer section B. It's shameful if we deny them this opportunity. My good friend Farida Bedu has been a champion for people with special needs and especially cerebral palsy over the years. And she won an award in our very first Festival of Ideas Award for her work. But I was recently reading an online article about a child with cerebral palsy that wanted to go to Harvard and had gotten early admission, and it was just I saw that video. I agree with you about Matilda and about everyone else. There are many of them. I even saw yesterday another person, a colleague of mine did a story too, another person with cerebral palsy who can't go to university just because they couldn't answer section B. Can they be graded differently? We must prove it. I think we must take it as a priority to check section equity. All right. We should bring in equity. No more equalization, but equity. They've been behind for far too long. Let's push them to the front. What will be number 3? Number 3, I think I want to see a Ghana where the older generation will hold the hands of the younger generation and mentor them as they hand over the baton to the younger generation. It's not about just breaking the glass ceiling, but putting a rope down and ensuring that the younger generation are also able to climb and maybe surpass the level where you even got to aim for the stars. I remember getting, after CNN Africa Journalist Awards, Harvard University wrote to me and they wanted me to come over to do a fellowship program for 1 year over there. If I had a mentor then, someone to hold my hand, to make me believe in myself then, I would have taken advantage of that opportunity, but I didn't because I felt it was too big for me and I couldn't go to Harvard. I don't know what happened to me. And so that opportunity went away. So I think now we should make it a priority. What time of your life was that? That was 2011. 2011. Was it around the period where you were in what you call the wilderness? So it was just after I'd won the first GJA award, but I still didn't believe in myself. Right. It happens. Especially when a whole person can write an article about this. I'm telling you, a professor, goodness. I remember writing I got his email address and I wrote to him to help me become a better journalist, but I didn't get any response. You went to that extent? Yes, I went to that because I wanted to become, I wanted to become better. Right. And I'm not afraid to learn. I'm not afraid to make mistakes now. I like something about how you follow things through. It's very beautiful. So prescription number 1, a Ghana where a price tag is not placed on anyone because of health. Number 2, where children with special needs, disabilities and rare diseases are given equal chance in life. Your 3rd is where the older generation hold the hands of the younger generation and mentor them. What will be number 4? Number 4, I want to see a corruption-free Ghana. I have a feeling this one will get a lot of traction. Why? Corruption, that time and opportunity or money wasted on corruption could have been used to develop Ghana. And corruption draws Ghana back hundreds of years backwards. And I think we can do better. We need leaders who would be bold enough to tackle this cancer. There may be a cure for cancer, there may be a cure for HIV and AIDS, but what's the cure for corruption? I think we should, the Bible says, train up the child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. Can we start teaching children the honor code, like let them know right from wrong from the early stages. We may not see the results now, but maybe in the next 50, 20 years to come, I think it will go a long way to help our nation.
I like what you say about the honor code, something that has been made very popular by my good friend Patrick Ewua in the Ashesi University, where children can write an exam, or students can write an exam without any supervision and they will not cheat.
Exactly.
And initially when it started, it was very, it sounded very bizarre or idealistic, but it has become now a standard that is celebrated across the world. What will be your final prescription for this country?
My industry, the media industry. I want to see a media where conditions of service for persons pursuing media or journalism are improved. There are some people who are not even paid at all for doing their work, and to me, if we want to preserve democracy, we should look to the media, because the media is the bodyguard of democracy. We know what the media can do, holding government accountable and pursuing different agendas that would help the nation. We must preserve our democracy. And how do we preserve our democracy? By improving the conditions of service of media personnel. I do not need to get an award to get a car in journalism. I do not need to get to 60 years before I can build a house. There are mainly journalists who are, I mean, it's so sad. It's so sad. So I think we must all just do something about it.
I tell you what, every journalist listening will say amen 3 times to this one. Let me put my penchant for harvesting lessons aside, and then unpack a bit about your persona. What kind of person are you? Are you a happy person?
A happy person. I'm okay. I think that's. I'm just trying. We try every day to become, right.
So, I know. I'm just curious.
I'm actually an introvert. Okay, I'm an introvert.
People won't believe you, but I believe you.
Yes, I'm an introvert. The old me would not have come to do this interview. I would rather sit at the back and not in front. There were days where even to MC a program, I want to do it. Even in church, Reverend Gidona here wanted me to be an MC, and I told him no. I gave him different reasons why. Until one day, I thought I was doing myself a disservice, because I prayed to God for opportunities, and these opportunities keep coming, and then I blow them away. So one day I just decided,
I'll do it.
I'm afraid, but I'll do it while afraid.
You enjoy it?
So, yeah.
What's your favorite color?
Yellow.
Why?
Yellow makes me happy.
So you see,
it's bright.
You answered my first question.
I see yellow and I get a smile. I love yellow. Yeah.
All right. What kind of person is your husband? I met him at the Heroes of Change. He's a quiet, nice guy.
Yeah, he's quiet. He's also quiet.
What's his name?
He's Hubert Gabor. Yeah.
Right. What does Hubert do?
He's a systems administrator. Yeah.
Right.
He works with the computers. Yeah.
So tell me, when you write a book, what will be the title?
The Making of a Journalist.
Why are you so sure?
Okay, so I've had ideas of writing a book, and especially Dr. Mensa Otable's preaching on the making of a king resonates with me. So the Making of a Journalist.
You know how many years ago that message was preached?
Several years ago.
But it's imprinted a lesson in your mind and you haven't forgotten.
So when you do something today, you should have it in mind that generations to come, someone may pick what you did. So be careful what you say today, because you don't know where it may land someday.
Tell me about a moment when you were, as they say, going somewhere, either here in the Ghana or abroad, anywhere, and somebody came to you to say something about something you had said or published or done that changed their lives and stuck with you for a long time. Share something like that with me. So
just recently, I did a story. I love doing stories on disabilities and persons with rare diseases. Little people, the term dwarfism is supposed to be cancelled because they don't want that term. They see it as derogatory. So little people, they don't grow above 4 feet. I did a story on little people in Ghana, and there was a 19-year-old girl, Felicity Ajuri from Navrungo. I met her this year, 2 weeks ago. She came all the way from Navrungo to Accra to see me because she wants to be the first little person in Ghana to read the news on television.
Wow.
And what struck a chord with me was that she's never seen anyone who looked like her on television before. But I did a story on other little people. That's why representation matters a lot. So I also want to see a Ghana where persons with albinism can read the news. Are you ready to watch people like that? Little people, we need diversity in our country. You can't hide them for so long.
Let me sell an idea to you. You know how these holidays, they do, what do they call it? The holidays when they do a different version of the news, a different version of sports.
Yeah.
That invite your friend from the Bongo, let her sit next to you and do the news with you.
Yeah.
I'm sure for the rest of her life,
she
won't forget that.
Yeah, and I told her I would push this agenda for her dreams to become a reality, because little girls with dreams become women of vision.
I'm going to give you a minute to sum up your thoughts when I come back, but these are the top 10 prescriptions or lessons from Portia Gabor, the 5 lessons of your life. Don't despise small beginnings. Prepare for your turning point moment. Number 3, develop yourself in the wilderness. Number 4, delays are not denials, and that will be a big one for many who are struggling and wondering whether I would also one day win an award and become that person that they are chasing for one interview after another. The 5th one, put God first. Very, very beautiful. And then for her ideal Ghana, the 6th, or the first in the ideal Ghana, but the 6th will be a Ghana where a price tag is not placed on anyone because of health. The 7th will be where children with special needs, disabilities, or rare diseases are given equal opportunity or chance in life. Number 8 is where the older generation hold the hands of the younger generation and mentor them. Number 9, simply a corruption-free Ghana. She says, Charlie, it sets us back 100 years. And if there can be a cure for cancer and AIDS, we must find a cure for corruption. We need bold leaders. And then number 10, where the media and their conditions of service are improved because they are what she calls the bodyguards of democracy. You know, Portia, I have loved this conversation, and if I may say so, I pray for you that God will guide you this year, and even for what you think has been the most fantastic year of your life. I heard when Pastor Tabo came to your church and he spoke over your life and talked about his pride as a pastor. He's seeing you present your laptop as an award to the church, and that was a very special moment for me. Hearing him, he's somebody I really admire and look up to very much, and hearing him say those words about you was very special. But I pray that this year will be even better.
Amen.
Yeah,
God is not tired of more. So.
We'll call you next year. You come and tell us an even better story. So from Comfort Tonight, we don't have an award for you, but we have this book called 1001 Tips for an Outstanding Life. So this is an autograph copy for you as your award.
This is more than an award. This is more than
an award.
Shake hands.
And then guess what? A bonus for you, becoming a best-selling author. This book is just dedicated to that project, that book you mentioned. What's the title again?
The Making of a Journalist.
The Making of a Journalist. In advance, when that book comes out, please buy one and buy 10 for your former school. and record this so that when it happens, you see, I told you so. So this is another one for you.
Thank you so much.
A best-selling
Thank
author.
You so much. I am honored and humbled.
It's a blessing.
For you to
so before you sign off, let me give you a minute to look into camera and speak to that young person who probably is in the wilderness and saying, hey, tell them something.
Hello everyone, I'm Portia Gabor, a journalist, and I just want to tell you watching me that a big tree was once a seed. When you see a seed and they tell you that this seed will become a great tree someday, you won't believe it. But that seed has to be buried first, and being buried, you get a chance to rise up again. In the darkness, nothing grows in darkness. There's silence in darkness, but you are still growing. God has not given up on you yet. And then all of a sudden, at a scent of water, the seed sprouts up and becomes a big tree. So as a seed right now, don't despise your small beginning, because very soon you're going to grow to become a big tree and you'll bear fruit. And when you bear fruit, remember, you have to sow the seed again and make sure you help someone else to become a great tree like you. Thank you so much.
And everyone said, amen. All right, so that has been Pastor Portia Gabor. Portia Gabor, my good friend, journalist of the year, sharing her thoughts with us on her ideal Ghana and also her lessons on her journey. Obviously, there's so much more we can talk about with Portia, and you'll come back again, hopefully.
Hopefully, I'll come back.
And let's have another conversation. My greetings to you, Pastor Gideon Ahia, and thanks for everything that you do, encouraging young people. This has been Springboard, your virtual university, my top 10 with Portia Gabor, and I salute you on behalf of the Springboard Ratio Foundation and our partners, the Multimedia Group and the graphic business, as well as our sponsors, MTN, Pulse, the Enterprise Group, and the UMB Bank. So, I hereby graduate you from this edition of Springboard, your virtual university. My name is Albert Ocran, thanking you on behalf of Team Springboard, led by Comfort. God bless you, and God bless you.